In this video, we're going to break down every single member of the X-Men affiliation under their brand new leader, Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to this, another Marvel Crisis Protocol video. Again, it's been a little minute, but we had a whole burst of things from Mini-Stravaganza, and we've now actually managed to play with some of the new things from Mini-Stravaganza as well and try out all of those new characters. And it's fair to say that a lot of the affiliations out there have been turned on their head a little bit, and one of them is most definitely the Uncanny X-Men. So we're going to break down everything under their, I'm calling him new, but revitalized glow-up version of Cyclops, aka Scott Summers. And to join me to go through this is, of course, Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing, sir? You actually like that theme song now, don't you, for this game?
You say I like it now. It's always been a banger, let's be honest.
It has always been a banger of a tune, yeah, absolutely. I am very much looking forward to them doing the... Are they calling it X-Men 97, I think? Is
Something
the official
like that.
title?
It's a continuation of that specific 90s cartoon,
yeah,
right?
But I think 97 was the year that it would have released in if they'd have carried on making them. Right, I think that's the way it works. But let's just start off. Let's just jump straight into it and talk about new Cyclops Scott Summers, because I mean, he just plays into our play style so much, doesn't he? In terms of what he does with his leadership.
It's very much, oh boy, here I go killing again.
With some characters who can actually do it now as well.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
We've broken down Scott's card on a previous video, so go check that out if you want to see the full breakdown. But what we're going to focus here is on that X-Men Blue leadership. So when an allied character deals damage to an enemy character with an attack, another allied character within range 5 of the attacking character may gain 1 power. After the attack is resolved, and then a character may only gain 1 power as a result of this leadership ability per turn. So it's essentially She-Hulk's leadership, but in attacks rather than defense, and there's a range limit to it.
Yeah, it's reverse Aprils.
Yeah, which, there are lots of characters in X-Men who have struggled in the past for numerous reasons. That one video is probably not long enough to go through it all, but power generation has always been one of the problems, hasn't it, for a lot of characters under Scott, well, not even just under Scott, but under Storm as well, which is why you didn't see a lot of them played. I think this, for me, Quinn, and I know you've played a lot more than me of this, but this solves, if you remember to do it, Quinn, this solves a lot of the issues.
Even if you don't remember to do it, you remember to do it like turn 1 with Wolverine, you're fine.
You remember to do it the times it's really important, right? Yeah. That's the key thing.
That is the thing. I mean, also just generally in terms of what I think AMG always wanted X-Men Blue to be, like, you could see what they were going for with the old leadership. It's just that it didn't work in terms of the power dynamics of the game, because you weren't actually getting anything cheaper.
No.
The only benefit you were getting was you weren't paying that power on one particular individual, but also it only worked for spenders.
Yep.
So you're not spending the power on that individual, but equally you're not gaining power on that individual. It just sort of made this weird imbalanced thing that just didn't quite work.
Gaining a power that can be used
on
for anything is always going to be better than making one particular thing cost less, or be able to use power from elsewhere to buy, because again, like you say, it's still power that has to be generated, right? And as we'll see, as a a lot of these characters in the X-Men, and I'm not calling them the uncanny X-Men, they're the X-Men. How they're power hungry characters, aren't they? They've got a lot of reactive abilities. They've got lots of things they want to be doing with that power.
Yeah, like there's so many things that it's like applicable for. Like, you think of OG Steve with his Avengers leadership. You reduce by one, brings a whole bunch of things online turn one, makes reactive things better. Most characters are good under Steve, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. With the
And then
exception
you
of
sort of,
Ant-Man.
yeah, like then you sort of side grade that to what I now think is potentially a better leadership than Steve because of like the increased utility of getting power instead of a reduction in cost or something.
Yep.
Like that power can be used on superpowers, and then it's kind of like Steve. It can be used on interacts, it can be used on spenders, it can be used on tactics cards, it can be used on all sorts of things.
Absolutely anything. Yeah. I think the only one downside I would say where Steve's wins out over Scott's is the fact that Steve's is a given.
Yeah,
Scott's you have to
guaranteed.
do the damage. So you can always plan to be able to do a play with Steve. You need to do at least one damage for it to trigger the leadership to then be able to give a power to somebody else. But just like Steve's leadership, or original Captain America's leadership, Cyclops's is per turn. So you can, if you've got characters that can perform attacks outside of your turn and during your opponent's, then there's some additional value there as well, which I really, really do like. And there's a lot of characters in X-Men now that are pretty good at murdering things. So dishing out 2 extra power on top of what you were doing already can make a huge, huge difference. So, Quinn, the way we're going to break these down is we're going to go through each character. So we'll go through and we'll rank each of them in the only known format to man, Quinn, right? It's the only way of ranking anything, isn't it? He's on a tier system.
Specifically the Japanese kind.
The Japanese tier system, S through to D, which everyone is familiar with. Everyone loves Quinn, as we know.
There's that one guy.
Apart from that one guy, you will
One guy that hates Japan.
always get a shout out on our tier list videos. And let's run down, Quinn, S through to D, because it changes for every sort of tier list we do, don't we? But S is going to be 100%. They are there has to be some weird reason why they not only make your roster, but they're making your X-Man squad.
Yeah,
right?
unless there's like very specific tech that's super likely in your opponent's like squad, you're taking this.
Yeah, unless you're
like,
playing
everyone.
around a particular thing, but they're going to be making up the core of your squad for the vast majority of times. A is a very, very good, solid character. They're more than likely making your roster every time you build an X-Man roster. But it may be that for whatever reason, the tech they bring that's particularly good just doesn't work on the setup that you're going into, or whatever it may be. B tier is going to be perfectly serviceable, has a good place as a squad player, or as a roster player even within X-Men. C is going to be, look, they're fine, like perfectly fine to take, but in our opinion, which as we know, Quinn reigns supreme in all things, there is potentially a better character, usually at the same threat level, right? So they're a 4 threat, and there is just a better 4 threat option for you to take. And then D tier, again, in our opinion, is stay away from, even if they've had a recent update and your name begins with J, they are probably still not good enough.
Don't say that about James.
To make it into, James definitely isn't D tier, to make it into your X-Man roster. So, alphabetical order, Quinn, as all things should be. So let's start out with Henry McCoy, aka Beast. I like Beast. Like, he still has one thing that really annoys me on his card, and you know what it is. It's acrobatic strike, ambush, On a wild, you have to place.
Yeah.
And I just hate the inconsistency of it.
It's the fact that, like, if the place is just on a wild, like, you get to choose it, then there's no chance of it backfiring if you do the attack. It's just that you might not hit your trigger just like any other attack with a trigger, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that sometimes you can roll the trigger and it's actively detrimental to you is just, it just feels bad, man.
Yeah. I think very situational. You know, you probably don't want to be taking Beast into a Guardians lineup, for example.
Yeah.
He will melt like butter. But for me, Quinn, I think he's pretty solid. He brings a throw, right? And it's a character or terrain.
It's a cheap throw as well.
It's
which
only
I like.
only two, which is nice. He's also got medium base, medium move. So you've got some potential, you know, if you were going down the more extracty type plays, you've got some potential extract plays in there as well with eyes on the prize or something like that. So for me, Quinn, he is quintessential middle of the road B tier character. If I see Beast in somebody's X-Men roster, I'm not looking at them going, oh my God, what on earth are you doing? Why are you taking him? You know, straight down the middle of the line. Could he have some tweaks and be slightly better? Absolutely. But I think perfectly serviceable. He's got his own inbuilt power generation as well, which is nice.
Yeah, like Beast is kind of a tricky one to balance, right? Because obviously you've got the ambush that's like pretty much a negative, I'd say. Like it can be really good, and there are times where you really want to hit that ambush, but just the fact it can backfire, you know, it's a liability. Just also with what the meta is and how good Guardians are, 2 energy defense is
it really
worrying.
hurts, yeah, it really hurts. It really hurts. There's a reason why you don't take Groot in a Guardians mirror match. So are you in agreement though with the B tier Quinn?
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah.
Like he's solid. He can be a workhorse. For a very long time, he was like just a staple X-Men character. Now, you know, we've had the advent of some other characters that
who have probably, you know,
supersede him.
Yeah, jumped above him a little bit. Absolutely.
Yeah, and B is for baser instincts.
Nice. Okay, we've got the alphabet game going as well. We'll try and remind you of that, Quinn. I don't know where to start.
I know
Quinn.
you're mad, but it's better than you think, okay?
Well,
I'll let you go on your rant, and then I'll explain why he's okay.
He's absolutely fine. And that's my problem. Like, as I've said it many times, maybe my single favourite character in the whole of Marvel anything ever. And yes, I was reading the comics way before he was in, you know, any sort of live action. I love him in the original TV show. That's where I was first introduced to him. And I still think he is just fine. Like, you compare him to other Five Threats, and he's just fine. We're, of course, talking about Nathan Summers, a.k.a. Cable. Leader of the X-Force, but also a part of the Uncanny X-Men. You've done more with him, Quinn. Maybe you've seen something in him that I haven't seen.
Stop.
What are your thoughts?
First of all, I feel like it's your fault for picking Cable as your favourite character. You should have picked someone cool like Doctor Strange. Anyway.
Fair.
I've not actually had any real table time playing Cable as of yet. He is a character that I've been meaning to swap into my Scott roster for a while just to give him like a run, but just haven't got round to it. Probably will replace ASM in my list, just so I have like an option to try him out. Slots into that 5-threat role. So, yes, Cable is not as stellar as he probably should be. However, this tier list is specifically for Scott X-Men.
It is.
And there is something very, very good he brings to the table.
Yep.
And that is 2 range 5 attacks round 1 into someone on the midline.
Yep. Because body slide by 1, double tap. Yeah.
And because of Scott's leadership, if you're doing even just 1 damage on each of those, you're giving out 2 power extra.
Yeah.
That is enough for a best at what I do being brought online, and another person being moved by to me my X-Men.
Yeah. No, it's fair. It's
Which,
fair. I get it. He also
like,
brings us. He also brings throw, right? He's got the X throw.
yeah, like train
which
throws
is
aren't really a big thing in X-Men. Like you've
yeah.
got one from Colossus, and like you've got some smaller ones dotted around. Jean has one, but
And it's an X, and it's within 3 and a medium as well,
yeah,
right?
like
So
it's decent, right?
I mean, probably outside of Magneto, it might be one of the best throws in the game because you're never overpaying for what I know some characters can pay 3 and throw a 4, but the fact that you can scale it up and down,
they're stuck at that flat 3, right? Like
exactly.
even if
So
they're
if
throwing
they
a
throw
size 1, they're paying.
it still costs
3
them
for it.
3. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, telekinetic shields isn't bad for a bit of like extra durability if like you really need that one character to survive through an attack. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Also, Ascari Sun it's a decent spender. You catch a couple people in it. It's Mystic,
It has lost its stagger off the backside, but even
which is
so,
only on his flip side anyway.
Yeah.
But it's a way to heal Cable, and also it's Mystic. You've got a fair few Mystic options in X-Men now, but those characters do tend to be squishier.
They
So
do.
it gives you a little bit of something that, like, he's got some stuff going for him. He's hardly like the best 5 in the game, but he's probably the best 5 X-Men.
He's probably the best 5 in X-Men. Yeah, which the bar is low, to say the least. So where would you put Cable then, Quinn, in terms of?
So if he had like a 6 dice builder, like you take away those little rerolls they gave him, and you gave him that 6 dice builder, he'd be an A, solid A. But because he doesn't have that, that makes him worse at the job that I would like him to do in Scott, which is that double tap from range. He probably ends up being in a B, probably under Beast, I'd say, but it's not by much.
That's fair. I'd like to say he's fine, right? Do you know what I wanted, guys? Ghost Rider was fine, and they glowed him up, and he became amazing. I wanted the same treatment. I wanted the same treatment for Cable.
Let's be honest.
Oh, indeed. Talking about globes, Quinn, a character that
Whoa.
Oh, sorry, and B is for
Body slide by 1.
Body slide by 1. Excellent. Characters who have had a glow up and are now like firmly, I think you'll agree, Quinn, like in that core when you're building out your squad, like after you've put Scott in, maybe the next character you put in. Colossus.
Not quite at that point with him, but
No, he's not quite above the other one, is he? Okay, no. Fair enough. But Colossus, Pietro Rasputin. Look, he now does
Piotr, but sure.
Piotr, whatever. He now does what he should do, Quinn. Right?
Is he the best at what he does?
He's probably still not the best bodyguard character in the game. And I know it's reverse bodyguard.
He's still not Steve, yeah.
He's still not Steve, but, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And then the fact that on his flip side, I'm just going to camp blanks. I'm just going to casually ignore your piercers. As most bodyguard characters are, they don't have any defense against Mystic, but then that's your decision to make as to whether or not you use them. Very, very viable, moving from a short move to a medium move. For me, Quinn, and I'll say mine first, he is going probably in the high A tier, not quite making it into S for where he is. I think he's just even though I see him as a solid squad player, I think he's just probably that little step down. I don't know if you are in agreement or if you've got anything else to add with your many, many games you've now had with him.
I mean, Colossus is a real tall guy, right? Like,
he is a real tall guy.
His head is like bumping on the ceiling of A, and like therefore, he's very close to S. He's just not quite there. He's very, very good. However, obviously, he's quite map dependent in terms of your objectives. Like, you're not playing him on a D, most likely. Especially because he has the reverse bodyguard. He wants to be stood by the enemy. it's
Or
just a bit
anything
harder to
that
do.
brings you into the middle, right?
Oh yeah, he's great on a Gamma.
Yeah,
Less so on a Demons because Incinerate isn't the best. But
it's
like a
not though.
Researcher, oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Also, his spend is pretty damn good now that it's range 3.
X-Slam's pretty darn good. Yeah, it's not bad at all. I would have liked to have a throw on there, I think, but I think it'd have probably been a little bit too much.
Yeah, he's then like scraping like the ceiling of S at that point, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
A
Moving on then.
is for America because that's where he went to after he left the Soviet Union.
Wow, that is lazy, is what I'll say
Look,
about that.
he's scraping the ceiling of 80. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Fair
That's how
enough.
it works.
Fair enough. Fair enough, even.
Fair enough, yes.
Yeah, there we go. Nina Thurman next, aka Domino. Did have some changes a while back as a result of Malekith, but still Quinn, a 3 threat, which is not to be sniffed at, right? Three. You want a good helping of 3 threats in affiliation when you're building rosters. Can dish out Incinerate. She's got the rapid fire automatic pistols. She turns off crit results as well, doesn't she? So that people don't get to roll in additional dice. She's got the probability manipulation, just eking her damage output up, which then in turn means that she's eking out more and more of those power dishes out to give to other people as well. So some really good synergy there. I think she's solid. I think she's solid both in and outside of X-Men. What's your thoughts on her and where would you put her?
She's an absolutely brilliant character. She's been a favorite of mine ever since she came out. Like, she's just a very good 3. Who became better once I realized when probability manipulation is actually paid for. My understanding was always that you rolled your attack dice, then paid for it, then your opponent rolled their defense dice. That is not the case. The resolve critical step is after both people have rolled dice. Just before they've exploded.
No. So just to clarify that, because it is on the forums as well, I believe, if you're attacking, you do not get to see your opponent's defense dice. If you're defending, you get to see your opponent's attack dice.
I don't know whether they've updated it in the rulebook, but in the timing chart, it happens.
No, because if you look though, it's after this character rolls an attack, right? So
but before,
so the timing is when 2 things happen at the same time. The player who has got priority essentially, which is going to be Domino because she's the attacking player, does her things first. And because after you roll your attack dice, me as the defender, I roll my defense dice, it comes into play beforehand. So you don't get to see what I've got before you pay for it. It's the exact same verbiage on Malekith. Now, if you're defending, then it's a little bit different. So you get to see my attack roll, but you don't get to see what I explode. Not that I could explode, because I can't. Yeah. You can't explode dice against her anyway.
Yeah, I thought that was different, and I'd just been playing it wrong. Turns out I have been playing it right the majority of my time in MCP. It's just that I looked at the attack sequence and saw that resolve criticals after roll defense dice and was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it is.
But it's a little bit,
It's the way it should work, so you don't get to see your opponent's defense dice when attacking. But even so, it's still pretty good, right? Being able to turn those fails into crits. Obviously now you can overpay, which was a thing that you could do before.
Yeah, which does hamper slightly, like a fair bit actually. I think it's more than a slight hampering. It was important, especially
when she's loaded with power as well. But
yeah, it's also she caught a stray bullet from Malekith there as well. I don't think
definitely
anyone was
did.
Majorly complaining about that with regard to Domino.
Yeah, she definitely did. So where would Domino sit for you then, Quinn?
Oh, she's Esther. No doubt in my mind, she is Esther.
Fair enough. Newer member now. Emma Frost, obviously bringing some mystic at that 4 threat level. Also brings a couple of not bad tactics cards with her as well. She's got her 2 forms. She's got she's got a lot of things she wants to spend power on, which obviously is nice that Scott can help her with that. She's got a really, I mean, I love like that hands off with the deference. If you get that wild size 4 character before damage is dealt, like and why before damage is important is, if you're throwing a Hulk around and you manage to one shot him or take him out, you're not going to one shot him with an 8 dice attack, but you manage to take him out, you don't get the throw, which can sometimes be really annoying.
Yeah.
So having it before damage is dealt. I think she's a solid character, Quinn. Again, I think she is a little bit more lineup dependent and who you're coming up against. For me, I would put her in that solid A tier. Maybe just, for me at least, just behind Colossus.
In
terms of where she sits.
She slots in just behind Colossus. I think that's fair. Not only in this tier list, but also in game. Like, she wants to stand behind Colossus and have him take attacks for her.
Absolutely.
Like, one of the biggest things about Emma, and one of the things I continually forget, or at least used to forget when she first came out, is she's Mystique. You can't do reactives against her. Like,
no reactives.
Like, that is so important to remember. It is real impactful.
Yeah, so any bodyguard, any healing factor cards, Rocket and Groot, Ghost Rider with his, deal with the devil. Like, really, really good at focusing in and taking a character out. So because you don't get to do any of your defensive tech or anything like that. Innate still works. So innate superpowers do still work. So, if you innately just count blanks, then you will still count blanks, right? But it's just reactive superpowers or reactive team tactics cards. So happy with her positioning there then, Quinn?
I think just so. Behind. I think she can go either way in terms of where she is with relation to Colossus. Matchup dependent, effectively, I think.
Yeah, and also threat dependent as well, right? Because at the right threat level, there's a good chance that you may be bringing both of them. Just depending on that. Remy LeBeau next, Quinn, aka Gambit. He's got a superpower called a little something extra, and I feel like he just needs a little something extra in terms of what he's got on his card. I get what they were going for. He's got all of this chip damage that he does. And quick question, actually, Quinn. If, let's say, Kinetic Ace goes off and you deal no damage to the target, but you get the wild, and therefore the explosive does a damage, does that trigger Scott? So you saying no there?
No. It is exactly the same as Red Skull, for instance. You wouldn't gain power from Red Skull because when an attack does damage, it's specifically from the dice pool.
Yeah,
like,
it's not the throw. It's not the throw at the back end. It's not the triggers or anything like that.
Yeah.
So for me, he's just a little bit lackluster, and he's up against 2, maybe 3 other 3 threats in affiliation.
There's at least 3. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, who are just doing what he does, but doing different things, but just overall so much better.
The one thing that I think would really help, there are 2 options here, and I think both of them work now because Storm has had her nerf. The first one is you make him faster, so you make him a long mover. I don't think anyone would object to the notion of Gambit being a long mover.
Yeah.
Like, he's a thief, he's fast, he runs around a lot. All of these characters run around a lot for the most part. That's kind of what comics are. The other thing, and would be the one that I would want, is, I think, just upping the range of Kinetic Ace to 4.
Yeah, that would be a lot better, I think.
Just giving him that little bit of extra reach, allowing him to, get those midline attacks off, once again sort of fulfill that Cable role of just someone who gets the ball rolling with that power.
So,
Like,
one thing I was always very surprised at is, Quicksilver has this, Black Cat has this, Gambit is a master thief, and yet has nothing on his card that kind of shows that. Like, the steal ability that Black Cat has is what I'm sort of leaning into here.
yeah.
It's something I was just really surprised they didn't, they didn't include. And maybe it's the fact that, that is not the snapshot of the cat. He's very much an X-Man at this point. So
Like,
maybe it's the wrong time for him, but
also, like, I don't have a great knowledge of comics. Like, I can't name a comic that Gambit's been in specifically. Let's go with issue 32 of the 2007 X-Men one. He might be in it. That might not exist. I don't know. But, like, to me, in combat, it doesn't feel like Gambit does a great deal of stealing. He's more of a heist guy, if that makes sense. Whereas, like, it like with Black Cat and sort of, her DC counterpart of Catwoman, like, it feels like a lot of the time when they're fighting and when they're involved in combat, it's specifically to steal something back off someone when they've been caught. Like, that
maybe
it doesn't quite have that same vibe, but like I get where you're coming from with the Master Thief route.
Yeah. So for me, Quinn, unfortunately, at least for me, he's sort of our first entry into the C tier.
Yeah,
where it's
I think so.
He's perfectly fine. Like, he could do with a little something. But in all honesty, he's got some stiff competition.
Like, weirdly,
he sort of just doesn't cut the mustard.
Like, weirdly, he actually did better under old Scott than he does new Scott.
He did, yeah.
Like,
he's probably he might be the one character that did.
Yeah. I also wouldn't mind maybe seeing that accelerate charge come down a power. Like, it's happened to a lot of characters across the board where, you're paying for the extra dice. Like, Iron Man's went down in cost. I believe Storm's went down in cost as well. Just a little nudge to get those extra dice, that extra output. But before we move on,
fair.
What's C for, Rich?
C is for. Oh my! I've had an absolute.
Come on.
Where's he from? Cajun.
There we go.
So I had an absolute mind fart then and couldn't remember. Okay, Gabrielle Kinney, Honey Badger, the only two threats in the whole of the Uncanny X-Men. Counterpart to Laura Kinney, obviously sisters. It's a weird
cloning
clone
is
thing.
weird.
Cloning is weird. Look, she's okay. She's got the healing factor 1. She has the reverse bodyguard. She has a incinerate. What is effectively an incinerate aura, but will stack with incinerate. But she goes down very quick. I mean, you'd rather her go down than some of your bigger characters, but overall, Quinn, like, as a 2-threat, there's value there because she is a 2-threat. But I just think because you've got so many lower threat characters, and as we mentioned, there's only 2 5-threat characters in X-Men. It kind of opens the door to bring out of affiliation characters that are maybe a little bit better than what Honey Badger is.
Yeah, like, also just in terms of like how threat levels work out and stuff, and like trying to afford bigger out of affiliation pieces as opposed to taking other out of affiliation twos. That's not really incentivized in X-Men because a lot of X-Men cards are really, really good and only work for X-Men.
They need they need you to be X-Men, don't they? And they've got enough 4 and 3 threats that you can almost I think you can pretty much build any combination.
Yeah, because you just sort of jib up and down every threat level. Like, yeah. She's okay. Not being able to do anything regarding objectives is rough.
That's one of the things that she really struggles from, isn't it? Like, if she was as she is, and she could contest and score VPs, she'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, even if she had like a 4-dice builder and could do that, she'd be so much more. Like, I think the fact that she can't have any sort of like
She
impact
can
in terms of VPs.
she can bring in a tactics card, but then the opportunity cost for that is just
The amount of tactics cards you want to bring as an X-Men player,
yeah.
it's just never happening. And I think because of that, like for me, Gabby goes in D.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a place for her right now. And again, we're talking, it's our opinion, we're talking about under Scott's leadership. Yeah, I just don't think there's really much for her to do there. You know,
Yeah,
you'd rather forego taking a 4 and a 2 and take 2 threes, I think, is the position that X-Men are in
I
right
think
now.
so. Yeah.
Um,
Also, D is for actually not dangerous enough to ignore.
Not dangerous enough to ignore. If anything, we've ignored her.
Speaking of ignoring things,
Oh yes, Quinn. Speaking of ignoring things, Jean Grey, aka Jean, she had a glow up.
I mean,
went
her
through-
art got better.
We went through all the changes. We actually don't have the updated artwork here either because we just didn't. But look, I will stand by what I said, Quinn, the day this character came out and the day that we reviewed her when she had her glow up. I do not get what this character is for. She is a counter to a very, very niche Thanos play, which, I mean, just doesn't really exist anymore. Like, I mean, you know, maybe you could say that, you know, Shield Mine now also works against Cosmic Ghost Rider. I would say you could put that into there as well, into the mix. But again,
I would say you could stick it in your pipe and smoke it, but sure.
no, but in terms of like, yes, she counters Cosmic Ghost Rider. But do you know what? Colossus can't be pushed. Like, so I don't know. I just think she fulfills a needed X-Men that is not needed whatsoever. If this game, Quinn, was absolutely rife with so many characters, good characters like Thanos, like Cosmic Ghost Rider, at lower threat levels, that were doing far more battlefield manipulation, where they were moving characters around, I think her stock could go up. But the fact is that she solves a problem that doesn't really exist. And for
it's not that she solves a problem that doesn't exist. It's that she solves a problem that does exist for too high a cost.
yes, yeah, that's fair.
Like she's really good at solving that issue, but she's not good enough in every other area of the game to therefore be viable when you think that problem might crop up, but it turns out it didn't, right?
Why she can't stop incoming damage from terrain is beyond me.
Why she can't at least stop throws at herself is
Yeah.
like Emma can do that. Why can't Jean?
Yep. Yeah. So for me, Quinn, unfortunately, because of that, I think she goes above Laura for me. I mean, do you care which way around it is?
Yeah, I feel like she's just worse than Laura. Like I could genuinely see maybe putting Laura in a roster. I cannot see putting Jean in a roster.
That is fair.
And D is for Dark Phoenix, the version of Jean that'll actually
The version of Jean that'll be very, very good. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of versions of older characters that were very, very good when the older character wasn't very good, Quinn. Logan, the Wolverine, the savior of all things Wolverines, and then he kind of got pushed to the side a little bit.
Yeah.
So 4-threat version, or well, they're all 4-threat versions of Wolverine. I always found it weird that this version of Wolverine was in the X-Men, like because it feels like it's kind after of he's left.
Well, it's either after he's left or before he's joined, right?
Well, yeah, pick the two, right? Pick one of the two. But even so, he's in there. You know, I think he would have been much higher up this list if a certain other James Logan Howlett hadn't had a massive glow up in terms of just being so much better. And it does feel like he has fallen by the wayside a little bit now. This new version of Wolverine that is not the new version of Wolverine. You know what I mean? But yeah, thoughts on him? Have you tried him under Scott's leadership? Does it help?
Like, I mean, first of all, Scott very much favors narrow map, as most attrition teams do.
Yeah.
This iteration of Wolverine prefers to be, he's a lone hunter, right? He tries to stay away from people to get those rerolls
Out
to
wide
increase
by
his
himself.
output.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, this is the Storm version of Wolverine, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that is fair. Now, it is nice still that his on the hunt is range 3, but the power is range 5. So you can still get him into position, can't you, whereby he can get the power, but it's not affecting those rerolls that he has on his attack dice, which I think is still nice. But yeah, for me, Quinn, under, and again, we reiterate, we're talking about under Cyclops. For me, he kind of goes into that C tier because he's overshadowed by, not only is he overshadowed by another same threat character, he's overshadowed by a character with the same name, which means if you take this version, you cannot take the other version, right, in your squad.
I'd also argue he's overshadowed by the character that has overshadowed any form of Wolverine since her release.
Absolutely.
Logan's great, but for a threat less, you can have Laura, and she is one of, if not the best, attrition 3 in the game.
Yeah. Maybe Zemo has a word about it, but...
honestly, I'd put Strucker over Zemo, but I'm a Strucker fanboy.
You do love some Strucker, don't you? So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to put him to the top end of Sequin, because I still think, he does a lot of work, but it's crazy, isn't it, how, he was a golden boy for X-Men. Yeah. But as you say, under Storm, I think he goes up. He goes up in terms of his stock, but yeah, just not as good as his glow up version of the old card. And Sequin?
C is for Canada.
Canada, fuck yeah. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Magic. Illyana Rasputin up next, Quinn, sister of Colossus. Did not get any changes, but I don't think needed any changes, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, she's all right.
I think she's solid enough. Limbo Step is nice. Again, pay X and place X is good, especially if you can get a couple of power into her, and that all of a sudden, becomes a range 2 or a range 3 place.
I mean, even just getting 1 power on her turn 1 from Scott's leadership, it triples the distance she places.
Exactly, right? Which means she can get onto points much easier, and she's then potentially using Soul Sword rather than Bolts of Oshta, which is, Soul Sword is a great builder.
It's a very, very good builder
for a 3 threat as well.
3 threat. She's one of your only real mystic options in X-Men. Does it at the cheapest cost as well. The only thing I'd want from Magic is maybe just one little defensive thing to keep her alive, because she does go down quick.
She does, yeah. Great against Mystic, but obviously
but falls down against other things, which is kind of how the Magic-y characters are set out in this game.
It is, but she does have Big Brother around as well, right? So for those non-Mystic attacks, she's got Big Brother around. So yeah, I really like Quinn. I think she's solid. For me, she's straight into that B tier.
Yeah, I think she's easily B tier. B for Bolts of Oshta, obviously.
Whereabouts? I don't think you've said this, have we? But yeah, I think about here. So the closer to the letter you are, the higher up in that particular ranking you are. That's the way that we do it. And Quinn, B for Magic is
for Bolts of Oshta, obviously.
Bolts of Oshta. Excellent. Okay, Quinn, on to a character that did cause a little bit of a storm when he was released, or when he was announced at least. Nightcrawler. So a 4 threat, which I thought they were going to make him 3, but when you see what's on his card, he had to be a 4 threat, right? There was no way of getting around it. I'm going to say this right now, Quinn. I don't know if they have captured the essence of a character any better than they have done with Nightcrawler in this game. I think they've done such a good job with him. Like, it just feels like Nightcrawler dropping down and popping up in all these different places and punch and then away and then back and then absolutely love it. Obviously brand new, we don't have the models out for these guys yet, but obviously we've still been able to get a little bit of table time with him because we've got access to his card. Look, this guy is all about movement via places, right? So that's how they show his teleportation in this game, is it's a place. He has a place on his builder. He has a synergy with his place from Brimstone Blitz, his spender that only costs 1.
I like how you said he has a place on his builder and he doesn't. He has a place on every attack he does if he pays for it.
If he pays for it, sorry, yeah.
Well, no, actually, technically it's free, but there are instances in which you would have to pay for it.
Where he would have to do it, yeah. But he's just got places all over the shop. He's got some nice defensive tech, adding 2 dice to a defense or dodge roll. I didn't realise that at first, Quinn, that he can buff himself up to 6 dice on dodge rolls, which is really, really nice.
Can you pronounce the name of that ability, please?
Pardon? It's acrobatics. Unglaublich. Unglaublich. I don't know. I really like him, Quinn. I think he brings something very, very different to the X-Men. He can potentially give power to his entire team. With one instance of Brimstone Blitz, like
I was gonna say that, like, Domino, because of the rapid fire, could potentially power up an entire team as well. But yeah.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, really good point.
I've had like a handful of games with Nightcrawler, and sort of I wasn't really paying attention to MCP at Mini Extravaganza when he was like revealed, because this was all before the updates, which is what really got me interested in MCP
back into
again.
It, yeah.
But like, I sort of took him and Kitty for a test drive. Wasn't too sure about him. Was like learning his card as I went. But by the end of that game, I was absolutely smitten with how well they captured him as a character. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. And also dishes out stun as well, right? Which is a very, very, I think, underappreciated.
It's a real sleeper condition, right?
Condition, sorry, yeah. You saw in a game I played, well, I think it was me and you playing, right? Cosmic Ghost Rider, you get a stun on him.
We've had a couple instances where he's taken the next slam and suddenly, like, things become real difficult for him.
Yeah, they really, really do. So I think Quinn, obviously, time will still tell, right? We still need to get some more game time with him. I think for me right now, he's probably going in that A tier of 4 threats.
Yeah, I also think specifically under Scott.
Yep.
The Brimstone Blitz, if you get the Flurry of Blows trigger on it, you're doing another attack against the original target character. Doesn't specify what kind. Can be another Brimstone Blitz, therefore you keep, cycling through the Flurry of Blows.
Yeah.
If you're very attentive over the course of a game where you're playing Scott X-Men, and you just chip a power to him, like, every activation or so, like, he can have insane pop-off turns, because every time he does that Brimstone Blitz, he gets the Puff of Smoke placement, the next one has more dice. And he just builds and builds and builds, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's, he goes from it, goes all of a sudden from a 5 or 6, let's say, because you probably would do
you probably pay the one to do the BAMF, like, just to get your...
Or you do a teleporting strike first and then get the puff of smoke for free. All these sorts of things. And yeah, like I say, just absolutely nailed him in terms of a character. From either comic book or screen. I think for me, Quinn, time will tell. I think I'd probably put him below Emma in terms of...
Personally, for Scott specifically, I put him above Emma. And I
Okay.
think he has the potential to supersede Cyclops. Cyclops? Colossus. That's who we're
Colossus,
talking
yeah.
about. Once again, that's sort of the area where time will tell for me.
I think he has the potential, Quinn, to go up alongside Domino.
He very much does. Like, that is definitely on the cards. And A is for acrobatics of the what variety?
Unglaublich.
Unglaublich. Yes.
Unglaublich. That one. The German one. The German acrobatics. Yes. Okay, Quinn. Elizabeth Braddock, aka Psylocke, next. Another 4 threat. They do have a lot of them. For me, Quinn, she falls down a little bit for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I think, we've got 3, 4 threats there in that A tier who I think she is competing against. So it is stiff competition. I also think if you want what Psylocke brings, magic for a threat less is a better option. Yes, Psylocke, she's a threat more. She's got a little bit more in terms of what she can do, but I don't think what she can do extra is worth the extra threat cost from magic.
I mean, she has some interesting things and some stuff that could work quite well with Scott and his leadership. You give her a power, enables that telekinetic combat enhancement. She gets to move, do that, get on a midline point, hit someone with a 7 dice katana, potentially Mystic if that's something they're weak to. That's not anything to sit at. She's got a range 4 attack, so if you want her to be the one to go up there, maybe chip a damage through, get a power to someone else, she's got the option. However, she's just a Storm character, and it's old Storm as well.
Yeah.
Martial artist and stealth, and obviously they're then having the cover if you're hitting her from the optimal range under Storm. Old Storm at least. That was where she wanted to be. And I think just with how Scott teams work with the narrow crises, stealth is less important because people are more likely to be within 3 of each other anyway.
Yeah.
And also, she kind of doesn't do anything outside of damage.
No.
And there are much better options in terms of damage output. I'd argue Nightcrawler has better damage output, and we are going to get to, one of the biggest winners of these changes, who has an insane damage output.
Absolutely, yeah. So for me, Quinn, unfortunately, I think, I don't think she's unplayable. I don't think she's quite in the, in the D tier. But I think because of that competition, because of the fact that, as you say, what she wants from a game, even just from a board setup standpoint, right, and the crisis, it's different to what Scott wants.
He kind of just stands in opposition to what Scott wants to do. And obviously C is for combat enhancements. You could probably do with more.
Okay, Quinn, on to Anne-Marie LeBeau, aka Rogue, another 4 threat character for the X-Men. And she does quite a bit, doesn't she? She's got a lot on her card. She's got a charge on there. She's got a, albeit only terrain feature, but size 4 throw for 3, and it's a medium, which is quite nice. Mutant absorption can come in clutch when you want to just take a character out but not use an action on it. Tanky, because even though she's got that 4/3/3 stat line, Kree mutant physiology means that she reduces damage by 1. But I don't know what it is with her. I just feel like a little bit like her counterpart in the box. It just doesn't quite. I don't know what it is.
For a moment, I had to search my mind for who she came with, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's Gambit."
Yeah,
I think that Rogue, for me at least, has a very similar issue to Angela, which is that
It-
I got one of the bad ones from the factory that
well,
doesn't roll good.
I also have one of them ones as well. And apparently
Like,
they take that character and import it onto TTS for you as well, don't they?
yeah, like I think it involves some sort of QR code. I don't
I think it probably
know.
is. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, she's just a little bit. I I don't know. I don't think there's anything you change about her necessarily.
Yeah, I just think
It's weird. Yeah.
but we also have to recognize the fact that she is up against lots and lots of fourth threat competition in
Yeah.
in this affiliation as well. What have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on in the tier list already, plus another one. So there's 7 fourth threats
Yeah.
in affiliation. So you and she just doesn't. I think there are other people, not necessarily that do things better than her, but are just an overall better option for Scott's leadership, which is weird because she's got loads of things she could spend power on. So then you'd be like, well,
Yeah.
surely she's a good candidate for it. But yeah, I just
It's
don't
that
think.
lack of ranged attack that therefore means that she's not really a turn one enabler for other characters.
That's fair.
And
Yeah,
there are some other characters in this affiliation that do that, but their payoff is greater than that of Rogue because they have effectively forms of dice manipulation, or they have
yeah.
other things that sort of help them out with what they do. Yeah, Rogue's just in a weird spot where she's good, she's just she's a bit bland, you know?
I think she's perfectly serviceable, isn't she? If somebody turned up with her in the roster, you wouldn't be looking at them and going, "That's a weird choice. Why on earth are you
Yeah.
doing that?" So
I
for
mean,
me,
maybe you'd look at them like that if she was there in lieu of some other characters in particular. But yeah,
yeah, I just think there are better options
yeah,
at four threat, and I don't know if that puts her into B or C because I think she can work under Scott.
Hmm.
I just don't think she works as well as the others. So I think for me, I'd probably I'd probably put her about there.
Like she can benefit like quite a lot from the Scott leadership, but just I don't know. She once again a bit like Logan. She feels a bit like a Storm character.
Yeah, I mean, getting a power onto her and turning on her charge round one is not to be sniffed at all. I think you're only ever playing her when you're in maybe 18 threat and above levels.
Yeah, even then, I think you probably splash out for someone like Emma because of the like attack types that she brings. Like, yeah,
Well, and that's the other thing to take into consideration as well, isn't it? Is she does physical damage. That is all she, other than her absorption thing. It's
yeah. Her
physical
builder
damage.
can be energy, but like
Oh, that is true. That is
you
true.
know,
Yeah.
Scott has your energy bases covered, and you're playing him every game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Quinn, on to another new member of the X-Men. And it's worth pointing out, actually, Quinn, isn't it, that both Shadowcat, aka Kitty Pryde, or Catherine Kitty Pryde, and Nightcrawler are not officially X-Men yet, because they're not in the affiliation list.
I mean, based
But
on the
they,
outfits,
but they're X-Men, right? We know that
she's
they're going to
got the
be
little X pad, like the little X belt buckle, like
She's going to be. If Logan, that's not in the X-Men, makes X-Men, I think Kitty Pryde makes it as well. She's another 3 threat, and I think maybe one that was not necessarily needed, but definitely a welcome one. They are a little bit top heavy, even though they're not incredibly top heavy with lots of 5s and 6 threats. They are sort of top heavy in terms of 4 a little bit, aren't they? So
yeah.
I think a 3 threat was nice. Obviously, we need to give Lockheed a shout out as well. Like, comes with Lockheed, which who doesn't love that?
I mean, I will also state, because my bias is about to very clearly show, Kitty's one of my top 3 favorite mutants. We've
Fair.
covered one of the other top three in this list.
Being
The
Emma.
only one we're missing is Mags.
Yeah, being Emma. Sorry, Emma is your other one. Yeah.
Yeah, Emma
Yeah.
is the other one on that list.
She's got some nice stuff. Dishes out an incinerate on a wild on a range 3 attack, which is nice.
Yeah.
Threes across the board, which is fine. She's got the can't touch this ability, so she's got some things that can help her. Again, giving her an extra power round 1, giving her that that range 2 phase rush is nice. So and then the fact that she can use phasing strike and she can get further forward as well. So I think she's got some nice stuff. I think she plays reasonably well into what Scott is trying to do.
Yeah, and there's a specific reason why she's good for Scott. And this is something that we covered when we talked about Cable and when we talked, we sort of gave vague hints to it relating to Psylocke and kind of improvements we'd like to see for Gambit. Cyclops really likes there are characters that are really, really enabled by Cyclops, like Wolverine or like Rogue. And then there are the characters that enable those characters by actually activating the leadership early doors and actually getting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Kitty is one of the characters that gets the ball rolling because whilst her biggest range band of attack is only 3, she's the only affiliated long mover in the entire team.
Yeah.
And that is worth a lot.
Yeah, it really, really is. A long move is not to be sniffed at. She is still only a small base, but even so...
Small base, but a long move is a long move at the end of the day. And also, she's getting that long move, which will be, just shy of the midpoint because of the small base. She's doing that range 3 attack onto the midpoint with guaranteed power gen, which then means she can do the phase rush onto the point. So adds a bit of capture weight, whilst also potentially, just chipping a power back to the rest of the team to just let you do what you need to do, right?
And also synergizing with the, is it the first class card? I think it is. Meaning that she can, if she only generates 1 power, turn 1,
she can still get
phase rush and she can still interact with something because she's not paying the power for it as well.
Yeah. Also, she benefits quite a lot from Scott as well, because she has a very cheap but very good spender.
Yes. Yeah, Intangible Assault is really nice. Really nice.
It is Synthezoid Avenger, but a little bit better.
On a 3 threat.
Yeah.
As well. And as you say, with the ghosted and a place on the end, which is placing within herself as well, which is nice because you're not restricted to having to be within 2 of your target, which is often how those work.
She can step back and get out of engagement range, get that stealth bubble back up. She's just good, man, and I'm glad she's good because I like Kitty. She's cool.
Yeah, and as you say, a really good way. Dishing out Incinerate. A 3 threat that can dish out Incinerate. Yes, she needs the wild for it, but it's on a attack that is 0 cost and guarantees a power. So I would see the Incinerate there as like a bonus at the end of it, rather than what you're trying to do.
Between Kitty and Domino, you've got a lot of Incinerate coverage.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That can be quite debilitating for some teams that maybe, they're counting blanks or, whatever else, where they're reliant on the actual number of dice they're rolling for their things to take effect.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So for me, Quinn, as far as 3 threats go, I don't think she's up in the upper echelons of S.
She's not quite with Domino, but I think she's better than Beast and Magic. I think she's in that A tier.
Yeah, I think she's maybe either side of Emma.
And once again, I think because they're different threats, it's hard to be like, oh, she's better than Emma or she's worse than Emma.
Yeah,
I put her beneath her just because she still has that slight, unproven factor to her.
That is true.
And also, as far as I'm aware, she doesn't have any cards, right?
Not
Not that
not
we
that have
know
been
of.
showed right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there may be some. I think she will have one, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay.
Okay, Quinn. Let's talk about
Ooh.
the other leader of the X-Force. Look, there's no batting around. There's no beating around the bush. You are never taking Storm with Cyclops, in our opinion. You have every other 3 threat in the affiliation is better. I think that is a fair statement. Under
She might beat Gambit just because she can do Eye of the Storm for 2, but
Scott,
it's pretty grim.
yeah, it is pretty grim. It is pretty grim. They
I could
took
see you
off
taking
her.
her in a roster, but that's if she's like your backup plan for a D map.
Yeah. But
Isn't like a Scott team,
you're not playing her under Scott. You're playing her with her leadership, aren't you? With the X-Men Gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think. I don't know. Is she? I just can't see you playing her under Scott ever.
It it's rough because for one, I think Storm should have been a 5 threat.
Oh, we should have had a mega level Storm, right? That's
Yeah,
what we should have
we
got.
should have had, literal goddess of the Storm, like, and then we got this, this piddly little character that does like a 4 dice lightning bolt, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning?
It probably takes no damage because there's not
might take one damage and up away. Like that is this version of Storm.
Yeah.
I mean, I was all set on putting a D tier Quinn. With the mindset of under Cyclops' leadership.
Thing is, I can still see situations where you might play her, and whilst I don't think you take her in your roster with Scott in mind, if you end up in a situation where you're running a dual leadership roster and you need Storm for whatever reason, it's not like she's actively bad for Scott's leadership.
We'll put her into C.
She's the lowest of lows in terms of C.
I think she stays there. Yeah, I think she does stay there.
She's not quite Jean level, let's be honest.
No, that's fair. And C is for?
C is for claustrophobia.
Excellent. And can you give me an A for Shadowcat, please? Because we didn't get that.
Awesome mutant that Quinn likes.
Awesome mutant that Quinn likes. Nice. Wolverine D tier, obviously.
Yeah.
Bottom of the pile. Oh, no.
It's just instinct at this point.
Oh, no. Boy, is this man a globe. Again, we're not going to go into everything, Quinn, but in turn, we'll pick our favourite thing. And I'm going to go first. The best at what I do is now what it should have always been. It's any attack and it costs 2. It's amazing.
It's a charge, but better.
Yeah.
That's what he's really good at charging. That's the best. That's the thing he's best at.
Yep.
For me, I think it's actually just the extra stamina when he flips over.
Fair. That is absolutely fair.
Keeping him around. Yeah. If you've kept a no matter the cost in the chamber, or you've got an exceptional healing factor you've not used yet, just being able to guarantee that you're going to have that activation with those extra dice, and then you're going to heal 2 of it off again after the fact. He just, he goes full rip and tear, right?
I tell you the thing that I like here, Quinn, is you only need to put 1 power on him once.
Yeah.
And that is it. He is then self-sufficient for the entire game. Or, mostly for the most part. One of the best characters to use no matter the cost on. Yeah. Actually, we didn't include no matter the cost in our
it's not really an affiliated or it's a very general.
It's a generic card, isn't it?
It's very good in X-Men, not only for Wolverine, but the next character on the list, and there's a couple others that we've already gone through that do benefit from it. I have played probably 20 games of Scott X-Men, I want to say.
Wolverine is your first pick, right?
I played Wolverine in every single one of them, and I intend to do that until I stop playing Scott X-Men, because
So
as far as I'm concerned, I have an 8 threat core. Yeah.
I think he goes there. And I can't believe we're saying this about Wolverine because, it's Wolverine. But it does just go to show, Quinn, doesn't it? Like, if you think about the text on his card, it hasn't changed a huge amount, right? It's a couple of numbers here and there.
3 changes.
Yeah. But, best of
what I do, the kind
stamina.
of attacks it can be used on, and then a stamina on his backside. Those are three things that have been changed. That's it.
And this is what we always say, guys, is that when, the gap between these is only ever a couple of tweaks here and there. It's not, it's not a complete rewrite of a character. Look, Wolverine should have always been an S tier. I feel like, your big hitters, and I don't mean that as in like, 5 threats. I mean as in like recognizable characters, should be some of the best characters in the game. And because they're the ones that people want to play, right?
Yeah.
If people are playing X-Men, they want to play Wolverine, they want to play Scott, maybe to a less extent, Domino and Colossus and whoever else. But like, if somebody says
if people are playing X-Men, they want to play Emma and Kitty.
Obviously, yeah, that's what they want to do.
So
you are people, apparently. Yes, you are people. Give me an S, Quinn. I mean, there's only one.
You know what it is.
6. It had to be that. It had to be that. Let's take a look then. Rounding out the characters. Daughter of Logan. Clones are weird. X-23, a.k.a. Laura Kinney. The Wolverine that was, Quinn, I think it's fair to say. She's
the Wolverine that still is. Like, she's not gotten any worse.
She has not got... No, but she was significantly better than Wolverine, not just for a 3 threat, but just better than Wolverine, even at the threat levels. We spoke about her loads before as well. Look, she's got some things that are just really, really good. She's got a great builder. She's got a great spender. Can access healing factor. She's got rerolls in her attack and defense die. Adamantium skeleton, meaning that not only are you reducing the you're reducing the number of characters that can throw her, which is always good. Yes, there's a downside in that she is a size more, but frenzy as well, which I believe the only other character with a frenzy-esque type thing is Angela. And she's
Angelic
a 5.
Assassin.
Yeah, and she's a 5 threat, which is nice. She gets about the board loads because of that claw rush, and it's range 3.
So cheap. Under Scott, you can just fuel it more because you put 1 power on her, you've got halfway to another spender, or you've got halfway to a frenzy, and it adds up big. She's a healing factor 2 character.
Yeah,
with 5/5 for 3, which is what Deadpool should have been. Like, I think genuinely, I wouldn't go amiss saying that she's probably my top 5 most played characters in the game.
Yeah, like, I think that's fair.
I love a bit of Laura.
Well, you play her in other affiliations as well, don't you?
Yeah,
she makes it into your Hydra.
I played her in probably 80% of my Hydra games. I take her in tons of other places. She's just really, really good. And the fact that she's in affiliation here is just icing on the cake, right?
Yeah. So, answer me this very important question then, Quinn. Which of the Wolverines wears it better and takes that number 1 S spot rank? Does Laura edge out Wolverine? Because for me, I'll give you my opinion first, because then it's not bias based on what you've said. Specifically under Scott, because you can turn best at what I do on round 1. For me, Logan just pips it, and X-23 is just behind him. I think you go to Logan first, and if you can fit Laura in you do. But I think Wolverine is the staple. X-23 comes afterwards.
For those of you at home that don't realise what just happened, I possessed Rich and made him say the things that I was going to say.
Oh, is that genuinely what you were going to... Were you like...
I was going to say specifically under Scott, because of best at what I do. I was going to say every single bit of that.
No. Now you give me your take.
Okay.
It's like that thing where you... It's like that thing where you go around the table and it's like, everyone come up with an idea and you sat in last place going, but every good idea I'm going to come up with, somebody else is going to have picked it. So for me, Quinn, she doesn't quite edge out Logan or Wolverine. Let's not get confused, but doesn't quite edge out Wolverine, but does, it firmly sits there in that S tier.
She is... Depending on matchup, she is the first port of call for a 3-threat. Then it goes to Domino. Then, funnily enough, with how tier lists work, it's Kitty.
Fair enough.
She very good. She very, very good.
Excellent.
Shame her sister isn't as good.
Yeah, it'd be nice if she was a bit more playable, wouldn't it? But, well, they're the characters, guys. Let's now take a look at the tactics cards that you may want to be taking along with these characters as well. Hey, guys, Future Rich here. When I was editing down this video, we ended up spending a lot more time on the tactics cards than I had initially thought. So what I'm going to be doing is releasing a second part to this video, which will break down all of those team tactics cards that can be taken with any of the characters and also with all of the X-Men team tactics cards themselves. So we're not going to do it in this video, but stay tuned because we will have a second part coming very, very soon where we will also break down all of the team tactics cards. But there we go, guys. That is our breakdown of all things X-Men. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it useful. Like I say, when we do these tier systems, we're not just going... this card is there, this card is there. I mean, we used to do with the old Wolverine, but we'll hopefully be giving you some information about, the reasons why and the things to look for as well. We hope you're having fun playing the new X-Men. Quinn, I know you're having a lot of fun, aren't you, playing them? It has got you back into the game. Who'd have known Boomer X-Men has got Quinn back in the game? Look at the face.
Boomer X-Men's a stretch.
The face. They're my
I
X-Men.
don't think I ever called them Boomer X-Men.
They are my X-Men and you call me a boomer. Therefore.
Not everything you own a fucking Lego. Lego isn't a boomer thing.
I had Lego when I was a child.
I know, but it's not a boomer thing. That polo shirt you're wearing is a boomer thing, sure, but...
I think boomers are the only ones that can afford Lego now, right? Like it's not...
pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. We have a lot of fun doing these. We learn things along the way as well. Sometimes I teach Quinn a little rule. Sometimes Quinn teaches me a little rule. It's just
the thing is, when I get taught rules, it gets left in, and then all the instances where I correct Rich, which is another 30 minutes of content.
Oh, the lies!
Just on the cutting room floor.
Lies. Guys, if you want to help support the channel, you can do so by supporting us on Patreon for as little as £1 a month. But you don't have to support us on Patreon to help support the channel. You can do so just by liking, subscribing, and making sure you've interacted with the video. Remember, we are giving away a brand new MCP core box. This video will be part of that as well. So let us know down in the comment section below which of the X-Men characters you've been looking forward to playing or have been playing under Scott. Let us know if you think we've got any of them wrong. I'm sure some of you do.
I want to pose a different question for the contest, Rich.
Go on then.
Because it's something that when we've done the sort of, affiliation guide videos in the past, we've each nominated a character as a splash.
Oh, okay.
Who's your favourite Scott splash?
Favourite Scott splash? That sounds terrible, but we get what you mean, Quinn. Scott's favourite splash.
My vote is Emma.
Dear Lord. Emma or Jean, depends which version. Depends who's playing them. But yes, so there we go. So all you need to do, make sure you've left a comment answering the question, and you've hit that subscribe button, and we'll be doing a draw in the next week or so. So this may be one of your last chances to enter into the prize draw. Big shout out to Leodis Games, the sponsor of the channel. As I mentioned, big shout out to all the Patreons. Head over onto the Discord. There's nearly 1,000 people on there now, Quinn, or over 1,000, or somewhere between 3 and 1 million. Yeah. People are on the Discord.
I think it's closer to 3 than 1 million, if I'm being honest.
Probably, yeah. I wouldn't be working if it was closer to 1 million, I think. But we'll leave it there, guys. We'll probably keep on doing these because we enjoy doing them. Let us know. Well, no, don't. We're not going to ask you for any more, but we'll ask you later on which ones you'd like us to do next as well. So until next time, guys, take care, stay safe, and bye for now. Let it play.